Welcome everybody. My name is Lauren. I'm going to be the moderator today. We're hosting a panel discussion on being intentional with family time. I work for a company called Maple, and our mission is to improve the quality of life for families. You can download our app. It's free, and it can sort of help find balance and communication in the household. So today, we're going to be talking and having an open conversation all about being more conscious with our time as parents. We're pulled in so many different directions. So how do we sort of stop and put boundaries around it so we can be in the present? Before we start, I would love to go around the room and really get to know each other. So what is your name? What is your title? What's the company that you work for? What is your sort of personal mission? And what does family life look like for you? Blessing, would you mind kicking us off?
Sure. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Name is Blessing Adesiyan. I'm the founder and CEO of Moderator. Honestly, my personal mission is really to support mothers, whether it's in building better careers or happier homes. It's really about reimagining how women thrive at home or in the workplace. And family time is something that is super important to me. I have 4 kids. So you can imagine our house is full, everywhere from a soon-to-be teenager to a toddler to a baby. So we're doing everything. And my biggest joy in life is really spending time with them and being available to them and just being intentional with how I parent. And I'm excited. I'm excited to learn more from this panel as well.
Thank you. Julie, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So happy to be here. My name is Julie Stuken, and I am a co-founder and the CMO, which is a Chief Marketing Officer at Scout, which is a company that is very near and dear to my heart. It's a startup that 3 other moms and I co-founded with the mission to really empower parents with a tool, and it is a technology tool that helps take the stress out of something that is so stressful for so many parents and makes them feel so overwhelmed, which is finding the best activities for your kids, finding a curated listing of things that are at your fingertips, and you know that they have been reviewed and curated, and this can take, an overwhelming amount of time from parents, and we make it possible for parents to do this within just minutes. So the mission really is to take something stressful out of your life and simplify it. And the reason this is near and dear to my heart is that I have 2 kids. They're 13 and 15, so not 4. So you're amazing, Blessing. But they are very active, multiple sports, multiple clubs, and our life is a divide and conquer. And it's literally just we're in survival mode now as they get older. So this is something that has actually helped me manage that process of getting your kids scheduled and signed up for things that I didn't have when they were younger.
Awesome. Thank you. And Whitney, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Dr. Whitney Caceres, and I am a private practice pediatrician in Portland, Oregon. And I'm also the CEO and founder of Modern Mommy Doc. And we are an online platform and also a community that is really mission focused on helping working moms, professional moms, and stay-at-home moms to find themselves again, to put themselves at the center of their lives so that way they can more effectively actually take care of all the things that have to be done as a mom, and then also to give them the practical strategies to make that happen in a sustainable way. And my home life looks like 2 kids, girls, 5 and 8. I have a neurodivergent 8-year-old who takes a lot of energy, and putting myself back at the center is the way that I make sure that I am responsive to her and responsive to all the other things in my life, as opposed to just reactive every single moment, every single day, and in survival mode. And then I have a 5-year-old who is more neurotypical, but who still has her own special needs. And so I'm definitely in the dance with all you other moms out there, trying to make sure that I'm doing my absolute best in my professional work, in my personal work, but that also that I'm maintaining my sense of self.
I feel you. I also have two children, and one of them is neurodivergent, and so it's hard. It's a challenge, but they are so special, and love the way they see things and how it's so different than the way my other child sees things, which is kind of cool. Terra, would you like to go next?
Yeah, of course. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Terra LaRock, and I'm a psychologist, and I'm also the CEO and founder of Mindful Mamas. We are a maternal mental health company, and we have a mindfulness and self-care app that is geared just for moms and their families. We launched into the pandemic, so it was the same day that our governor here in Denver, where we were based, issued the stay-at-home order. And so it's been really interesting to, of course, launch a business into the pandemic, but also so incredibly, we feel so lucky that we were able to be there for parents during that time and continue to be there for them. Our mission is really to eradicate maternal mental health issues for all, to help women understand their nervous systems, to help them understand their big emotions, to normalize the often hidden experiences of both motherhood and in life, and to really kind of squash the idea that supermom even exists. So we are so blessed to be in the position to help moms thrive in both motherhood and in life. And my home life looks like two little ones. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and my husband is actually a stay-at-home dad. So it's really interesting being the sole provider as the woman of the household. I think it gives my kids a little insight into how different family dynamics can look. And I love that we're able to have those conversation starters at my home. And I'm so happy to be here today.
That's amazing. And I love that, being able to talk from a place where you are the sole income provider, because that's not as typical. And so that's a really lovely perspective to have on the panel today. So we're going to kick off. I know as parents, we're pulled into a million different directions. We sometimes feel like between the mental load and the physical load and take care of our kids and ourselves and our corporate jobs, there's just never enough time into the day. And I know personally, when I have my 3 and 5-year-old and I'm spending time with them, I ask myself, have I looked at my kids in their eyes today? There are many days that I feel like I just don't do that enough. So how do we as parents create better boundaries and make sure that when we have family time, that it's really quality time, we get the most of that time with our kids? So first question. This might sound totally unbelievable, but according to research, parents today are actually spending twice as much time with their families as they were in past generations. So according to research that was published in the Journal of Marriage and Family, we looked at 11 different wealthy countries, and the average mother spent in 2012, 104 minutes a day caring for her family. And in 1965, that was just 54 minutes a day. Men still do, while they still do less than women in the home, things have improved generation over generation. The average father in 1965 just spent 16 minutes a day being with their children. And in 2012, this had risen to 60 minutes. So that's pretty cool that we're directionally going and trending in the right way. Now, that data was from 2012. An annual survey conducted in 2021 found that 62% of kids ages 6 to 12 said that their parents are very distracted when talking to them, and the cell phone was the main culprit. On average, Americans check their phones 262 times a day. That's once every 5 minutes. So while we are spending more time with our children, is that quality time? And has that quality decreased even though the time has increased? So Dr. Whitney, can you please kick us off and talk to us about what happens when parents spend quality time that is distraction-free with their children and why that's important?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said at the top of this, I am a practicing pediatrician, so I see families day in and day out in my clinical practice. And what happens is when we don't spend that quality time, our kids can tell. They are very, very smart. They know when we're not listening, and they learn themselves that they are unable to be still and listening to somebody else without being distracted as well. when we give our kids moments of what we call in the medical community special time, so undistracted, really focused, no motivation on our own to get something accomplished or to do something that we want to do, but just being with our kids, we know that it actually does a number of things. Number one, it strengthens our bonds with our children. It deposits almost money into the emotional bank of our kids. Because at times as parents, we of course have to draw out of that bank a little bit. We have to ask them to do something that they don't want to do. We have to potentially go on a business call. We have to go on a trip maybe for business. We have to be separate from them. And so when we spend that time with them, when we're looking in their eyes, when we're saying, whatever you want to do is what I want to do, you're in charge, right? That gives them that emotional bank that then we can pull from later. And the studies are amazing about how it really only takes 5, 10, 20 minutes of that focused attention with our kids to be enough every single day. Now, if it's more than that, awesome. But just, I want parents to be able to give themselves a break if this sounds like, oh my gosh, I can't spend hours and hours and hours staring at my kid, that it really doesn't take very much time. We also know as a benefit that our kids are better emotionally regulated. So just by spending that quality time with our kids, that we actually have less behavioral issues on the other side of it. So from a kid perspective, in terms of their mental health and their actual behaviors and our connection with them, the investment that we make with spending uninterrupted focus time with our kids, the evidence is clear that it's really, really beneficial for them. And it's really, really beneficial for us because we don't have to spend as much time correcting behaviors, being angry, being resentful, being reactive with them later on.
I like the way that you put that sort of giving and taking from our children, like that quality time with our children, because there's definitely so many times when I have to put them in front of some new toys and I'm like, I need an hour and I can't look at you and I can't be with you right now and spend that quality time. And I know that can be, it hurts their little hearts. And so it is nice to know that I don't have to spend an hour a day and I can put 10 minutes of really high quality time in with them and they'll feel really good about that and that lasts, which is nice. I think, technology is both a cursing and a blessing. When it comes to parenting and this work from home life that we're all sort of experiencing right now, there is a bit of that sort of, where is that boundary between technology and not having technology in our homes? Julie, can you talk a little bit about navigating that with kids?
Absolutely. And this is a tough one because, we all have a love-hate relationship with screens. And, our kids, most of our kids have been brought up on screens. And when the pandemic hit, the world went online. And so we actually launched right prior to COVID. And what we saw immediately was, all of these activity providers desperately wanting to get their content still to kids. And the big, I think, conflict with parents is, okay, my kids are now on screens all day for school. Most of us live that. Do I want them in front of a screen? I can't get them into their sports. Sports was canceled. The world really became an online avenue for content. So what we sort of came up with, and entertainment is one of our E's, is at Scout, we have the 4 E's. It's enriched, entertained, elevated, engaged. And if you can find content that is doing that for your child online, which is a screen, then to me, that's better than TikTok and Minecraft and all the games that they wanted to play after the day ended. And I have a 15-year-old and, she had been online all day and I was trying to get some work done and I could hear her TikToking in the other room and I was losing my mind. And so I quickly took out my app, Scout, and I went online and I just looked for 15-year-olds for classes that were going on right then and there. And there was a learn to invest in the stock market. It was a 2-hour class. One of our partners was offering it. It was $10. I was like, done. I signed her up. I'm like, I have a class for you. And so what that said to me is I took away something that I perceived as maybe not as nourishing to her soul, which is TikTok. I have nothing, there's nothing, everything has a place in moderation. TikTok can live in certain times of the day, but I wanted her doing something for the next 2 hours that was going to teach her something. And she loved it. And because of it, she went and joined the investing club at school. I signed my son up for an online coding class for Minecraft. So he still had that Minecraft entertainment factor, but he was learning coding. So I think as parents, and then this really brings up the whole technology piece of what we're all in, which is this big space that, I think you at Maple call it FamTech, we call it FamTech or parenting technology. We are all creating tools that we want families to use to enrich and enhance their family life and nourish and feed the family and the kind of the soul of the family. And so when COVID hit and you had this merging and intersection of work, family, and home, we knew right away that there had to be a way to get parents to quickly give their kids something that they felt good about. And it was going to be on a screen and it was going to be technology, but that they could say, okay, you know what? They're entertained, enriched, engaged, elevated. And that gives me peace of mind. I can now focus and get my work done. But there's a balance. There's always going to be this balance. But the interesting thing about COVID is it's created this new channel that I really don't think is going away. There are now activity providers that have told us, we think a better medium for our content now is online. Kids do better learning certain coding online, STEM classes online, music online. And it's really opened up this whole amazing opportunity that you can now take classes anywhere in the country, potentially down the road, the world. So there's a lot of value to what screens can bring.
Yeah, I think we found with our kids too, just on that point of trying to find better screen time, if you know that you're going to have to put your kids in front of the screen. For our little ones, we found sort of this online yoga class that they could take. And so I would sort of sit with my husband and we would say, okay, we're both working from home now. And it is inevitable that our kids are going to be in front of the screen at some point. So what does that screen time look like? Well, is there a way for us to get them physical while looking at a screen? And then can we have a break, right? And what does that break look like? And maybe they're having a snack and maybe we go outside. I found water toys for my family worked amazing. They would sit and be engaged for like an hour doing water play. And then they come back in, dry up. And then can we get them in front of some kind of an educational show? They're a little bit younger, so we would have to manage that a bit more, but on off time and spending little breaks with us was sort of how we managed that time. So love your point on really being harder on what does the screen time look like for our kids and how do we manage that. Blessing, you're an entrepreneur and you have 4 kids. So I feel like you have got to have a little more insight in cracking the code on that balance and family time. Can you tell me a little bit about what that looks like at home for you?
Yeah, so for us, I mean, it's a circus, but I try as much as I can to make sure that we are a little bit balanced. So for me, I have found that in order for me to be truly intentional, I need to schedule it. I need to plan it, and I need to schedule it. So we have a lot of structure. There's a schedule for everyone in terms of what we do when we wake up. What is our morning routine? So everybody understands that. Brushing of teeth, changing out of our pajamas, going downstairs to sit down for breakfast, right? So I have 2 little ones. They are toddlers, so they're 3 and 2. So those are the ones that really need that, extra attention. They need to follow a routine. The baby's only 2-month-old, so she just eats and sleeps. And my 12-year-old is, she can manage herself. So we really have structure really around the toddlers. And so that's how I sort of balance things out, is having a schedule for everyone. So they know that lunch is always at 12 o'clock when they're home. They know that bedtime is 7 p.m. I always, I put in these structures in place for my own sanity. And also because I have a support system at home, right? I have a nanny and I have a husband who is also their dad, right? And so everybody knows when they need to engage with the kids and what they need to do and how they need to execute. That has allowed me to continue running my businesses and let other people support me. So as we think about being intentional with our time, with our family, I think it's important for us to remember that if it's not planned, it probably won't happen. So those 15, 20 minutes here and there, I schedule. So I block my calendar, to say this is time for, breastfeeding, right? This is time to, interact with the kids. This is time for bedtime stories. I even have it to the point where I put the bedtime story that I want to read in my calendar so that I don't forget. I know that not everyone is as organized, but I have found that I used to be. I actually need to say this. I used to be the most disorganized person in the world. Okay, like I had things flying everywhere, and then one day I decided, you know what? What is it going to look like if I do become a little bit more structured around how I actually parent? And I have found now that it is really night and day when I truly plan. So it's holiday season, right? So I have a schedule for the holidays. When are we going to the beach? When are we going to the park? What are we doing for Christmas? I have all those things planned. It took only about, 2 hours, but that's 2 really good hours that will save me a lot of time down the road. Somebody said, I love time blocking. That's exactly what I do. Another thing that I do is really partner with my husband, right? A lot of times for example, today I have been walking all day and I haven't had time to really spend time with the kids. So we always just plan to, okay, if you're really having a long day, then the other person is sort of interfacing with the kids more because we're both working parents. So he's the one right now handling the baby, right? So that I can be on this call. So as we plan intentional time, I know a lot of moms, we sort of tend to put all of those things on ourselves to say, hey, I'm the one responsible for this. I'm the one, to go plan this or plan that. I think definitely having dad or partner be a part of that conversation and this is where the planning comes in, right? Where we've all planned to say, hey, you're the one doing the mornings and I'm the one doing the evenings, right? Whatever that is. So I have found for us is, a little bit of structure and really some partnership on the home front.
So I love that. I know not everyone is a big planner, but I've found for us a little bit of structure and routine is so good for our kids. They really do well with it. They know what to expect. They like to be part of the plan. They like to incorporate their own asks in the plan. We sit down as a family, we talk about the plan. The only way that it backfires is when my kids decide they don't want to do something. They're like, I have a different plan. And my 3-year-old will be like, here's my plan. And they'll go, good plan? I'm like, no, not good plan. We're not going to the park for 7 hours. But I love
you have to be flexible with kids, right? You have to be flexible.
Yeah, exactly. But I love that they're also thinking about the plan and talking about what they want to do. And that's just such good life skills for them to sort of develop. So that's really fun. And I totally agree. When you're a little bit more organized, you have that flexibility and sort of peace of mind to plan time where you're like, we don't have a plan during this time, but we have plans around it and I'm going to be able to get more done. Terra, I know that every mother I've ever talked to, and I personally suffer from mom guilt. I feel it all the time. Have I kissed my kids enough today? Am I teaching them enough? Are we doing enough together as a family? Can you talk a little bit about how we as mothers navigate that guilt?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, it's not going anywhere. It's unfortunately here to stay. But I do feel that, that feeling of guilt is a strong indicator that you care. And just acknowledging that, just knowing that that mom guilt is rooted in this desire to want to show up in the best way you can for those that you love and for the things that you care about is a shift that you can acknowledge mom guilt from a place of, oh, this is showing up for me because I care, right? Now, you don't want to go off and say, well, if I experience all the mom guilt, then I care the most, right? Like it's not, you don't want to go into that mentality, but you do want to at least have that mental shift of, okay, I'm noticing it's coming up for me. That means I care. And this can be a doorway to practicing self-compassion. And that is so important, that self-compassion piece, because the truth is we can't do it all. It's not life work balance, it's life work integration. It's not, getting all the chores done and being present with your kids. You can't always do both. That's virtually impossible. And so for me, feeling that I'm able to identify first what it is. Oh, that's mom guilt. Hi, mom guilt. Sometimes I even talk to my mom guilt. I see you. Yep. Yeah, you're telling me I really care about making my child's 6th birthday super special because last year was a pandemic and let's face it, it sucked, right? But do I really need to listen to all of the things that are going to make her feel special on that day? And one thing that I tell parents to do often is when they identify that there's mom guilt coming up and it's surrounding the kids and am I doing enough? Am I being enough? Am I teaching them enough? Is to go ask them, hey, what makes a good mommy? And it's so simple for them. Because you love me, or because you brushed my hair today, or, you know, depending on their age, they'll tell you. And I think it's just giving them the opportunity to tell you where you're succeeding. It makes some of those things that you feel like you put a lot of pressure on seem so insignificant. Like, oh yeah, she didn't mention that the dishes are always stacked in the sink, you know. Even my 3-year-old, he didn't mention that his clothes were clean for preschool. Like he maybe doesn't care about that. I might stress out about getting the laundry folded and put away. So the morning time is, much smoother for me to get them out the door. But really, like, he just loves that I fill up his water bottle in the morning and give him a kiss, goodbye. So I think mom guilt, it's an opportunity for us to reflect and to notice and pause when it comes up, and then identify, like, is this guilt really mine, right? Or is this the voice of society telling me I need to do these things, or the inner chatter that's coming up that might not even be my own? And really coming from it at a lens of self-compassion can be so helpful in reframing what that guilt actually means. And it doesn't always mean you have to do something. You can just acknowledge it, and sometimes even that just helps it pass in a way where it doesn't demand so much emotional energy from you. So mom guilt, unfortunately, it's here to stay, but I do think that there's ways to work with it. And it's something that I have to remind myself of daily. It's a daily practice.
And it's so interesting too, because I feel mom guilt all the time. I ask my husband, like, do you feel guilty all the time? He's like, no. And I'm like, oh, I need to take a page from your book. I don't know how you do that, but that's amazing. But the other day we had spent a few hours away from the kids, and he's like, I do kind of feel guilty that I haven't been around the kids today. And I thought, oh, maybe a little bit of dad guilt does exist, and I'm not the only one that feels that way. But I love what you said about sort of setting the bar, especially in the household, of what needs to get done and what really is a priority. I know in my household, the laundry is the biggest time suck. And so I just do what I can. And if we don't have as many clothes this week, we don't have as many clothes this week, but my son is really happy because I played Legos with him. And so just sort of reprioritizing and understanding, it's not as much of a priority for me to fold the clothes, but for my son, playing those Legos, it's not going to be forever that he's into them, is meaningful for him when I sit with him and we talk about what he's building. So really like that. A big part of intentional parenting is having focused me time. And when you can focus on those tasks uninterrupted, that sort of helps your state of mind. How do we as parents stay present with work and home life existing in the same space while still being productive? How do you find that me time? Blessing, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
I mean, I'll probably beat the whole schedule. I'll probably beat that down today. But I find that if I don't plan for it, it doesn't happen. I think me time for me is also about, like you said, getting my work done, and also getting, having some personal time for myself. And the statistics is that, look, moms are being interrupted every 3 minutes, 42 seconds. That was the statistics, especially during the pandemic. And we've not seen that especially when the kids are home. I think when the kids are home, you're just going to get interrupted. And in order to find that time for yourself, one is, if you can, obviously, the child can be in school, right? Go ahead and do that. The child can be in daycare. I know that's a luxury for some people, but please, I always say prioritize support and help. There's actually a study that shows that when you pay for help, you actually you're much more happier than purchasing, let's say, a TV or a couch. It's really crazy. So prioritizing that. Another thing that I prioritize is getting help. I have been a mom for the past 12, 13 years. I can tell you that if you don't prioritize help, you're just going to be spinning your wheels and you'll be frustrated, you'll be tired, exhausted, and it doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve your kids. So what I always say is put yourself first. What do you really need, right? Do you really need help with somebody to come in to do laundry once a week? Yeah. Is that what will really help you? Because when you can prioritize that support, then you can start to get your time back, right? Because what mom really needs is getting time back. And if you can get that time back, whether it's by, getting help with laundry or getting help with, cooking, or even, for heaven's sake, order pizza for dinner once a week, right? And really get that hour back to focus on yourself. Read a book. I've spoken to moms within our community who haven't read any books this year, or they haven't done anything for themselves. No manicure, no pedicure, nothing. They are busy churning out work at home from morning till night. This is my call to you. Please get some help. Order pizza, let them eat mac and cheese, get that 2 hour back for yourself. So those are the ways that I try to carve out time for myself, is really schedule it, plan it, outsource whatever you can, and be gentle on yourself. It's, you're never going to be perfect for your kids, and that's okay. Your kids are not perfect either. And so it's about time you understand there's no perfection. Order the pizza, get the laundry outsourced, whatever you feel you need to get your sanity back.
Yeah. And I want to touch on your point a little bit about finding help, because a lot of parents might feel like, I don't have income to hire help. And I would say to that point, your community that you build for yourself when you have a family is amazing. Like, they want to help you. And so reach out to your community. We have friends who they know that we're struggling with our boys right now and we're both working. So they bring over dinner once a month, and they'll bring just like pasta, and we hang out outside. And that's so lovely of them to do. And they're happy to do it, and they love the kids. And that's amazing. I tap my mom and I'm like, Mom, can you help with planning X, Y, and Z for me for the kids? And she's happy to jump online and do that, even though she's a state away. So there are different ways for you to sort of leverage your community that you build for yourself to find help.
Everybody needs a village, right? I always, I tell our moms every time, everybody needs a village. So whether that is your sister, whether that is your uncle, your brother, your niece, whoever it is that, you feel can support you through this, because really for moms, it's really that 0 to 8-year-old, time frame when kids are little and they need a little bit more hands-on support. So find that village if your kids fall into that age group, and be available to them as well. Look, I have friends that, bring their kids over and drop them off on their way out, for a picnic or for date nights. And I'm okay with it. And I think, especially, in the US, right, where, a lot of us are kind of like my family and I, and my baby's crying. So I'm going to wrap this up.
You're totally.
Let somebody else continue.
Julie, what does me time look like for you?
Yeah, I just have to comment on something Blessing said, because it struck me. So my kids are a little older, Blessing. Mine are 13 and 15. My son is 13. My daughter's 15. But you brought me so viscerally back to the early days when I was full-time working. My husband, we've been, a 2 working household forever. And didn't have my village, and I really found myself in a place where I couldn't make it happen. And so I literally knocked on doors of friends in the neighborhood that I barely knew, but we were all like sort of new in this neighborhood, and we all had kids roughly in the same age. And I just said, listen, I mean, it's a little different in COVID times. Right now, we can't just plunk our kids over at other people's houses. Hopefully there'll be a time when we can do that again. But I literally would organize for the neighborhood. Just everyone signed up for they prioritized their top hour of the week that they needed. It could be work, it could be, I want to take a nap, I want to work out, I want to do anything. And sometimes, a mom had like 4 or 5 or 6 kids, but it worked so well. I struggle with something a little bit differently, and I'll talk to more as like a mom of now teenage kids. And I'm hoping there's other people that have joined in today that can relate to this. So when you are working and you really need to focus and really get work done, and you've got kids, this merging of home and family and our work life is probably our new normal for some time. And many companies are not requiring anybody to go back to the office. So we sort of need to look at this next phase, is that we are going to have kids coming home during our workday, and they're going to be teenagers too. So how do you feel good and productive with your time? And one of the things that we did this big survey, and it was almost a unanimous response, but I was shocked when your kid is okay. And we all have different definitions of what okay is, but just, good, they're okay, they're nourished and being fed by whatever it is that they're in that moment doing. You actually have the peace of mind to have so much presence to get your work done. I find myself so much more efficient, and then it allows me, when I do have free time, to really be intentional with that time and the quality of that time with my kids. I'm not distracted. I'm not thinking about that meeting that I was like 1 year in, 1 year out. I'm not thinking about all the things that I half did. I'm really present for my kids. So it's figuring out, at whatever age your child is, how do I make sure just my kid is good? They're engaged. They're not surfing the internet and getting themselves into trouble. They're not just watching YouTubes. And when you get into the teenage years, the screen, the compelling nature of the screen is even more challenging. And, they're chatting with friends, and they're on all the different apps, and you feel like you're losing control. And the more you try to pull them off of that. So what I've just found that helps me is sitting down with the kids and finding things that they are excited about, that I also feel good about. And we make these decisions together. And it could be activities outside of the house because they're a little older, so they have a little more freedom. It could be things online that we've all decided, like check all the boxes. And, it actually works. It's just like communication. And we forget, when we have older kids, they are developing into adults, and they are more than happy to sit down and have like a really open conversation. And knowing that I'm really honest with my kids, I'm like, do you know how hard it is for me to focus on work when I have no idea what you're up to?
Yeah.
It's stressful. I can't think. And then later on, when I'm trying to be with you, I'm not really with you.
Yeah.
And they, surprisingly, that really honest dialogue, they got it. And they were like, okay. And so I just like, make the plan with your kids and let them know what's important to you.
I like that. And I get that, I mean, I'm not there yet, but
Not there yet. You can't do that with a 4 and a 6-year-old.
No. And yeah. And
Yeah.
like, they're not navigating the interwebs
Yeah.
willy-nilly. And I'm not sitting there worried about what they're, perusing online, because they're not there yet. So that scares me thinking about, we're going to get to a place where I am worried about what my kids are doing online, and, what websites they're looking at and what content they're digesting. So thank you. That's a really good insight. Terra, how do you find me time? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I recall an activity I did when I was in the throes of my postpartum depression and trying to get out of it. And I had a lot of that mom guilt of, well, my baby needs me, my baby needs me. She was a very high needs infant for many, many months. And I did an activity where I took a piece of paper, and I try to do this every now and then, especially when I get into that inner talk of, oh, I can skip my meditation practice tonight, or I don't need to take a shower and listen to my favorite podcast this week. I'll just skip that. I go back to this chart that I did. I took a piece of paper, drew a line, did a T chart, and on one side I wrote what will stay the same or potentially get worse if I don't take care of myself. And then on the other side I wrote what will get better. And it was so clear to me what the decision was, and that choosing myself was actually choosing my family. So now I feel like I can engage in self-care in a way that is I'm proud of. I like to share with my kids my self-care wins. I like to set boundaries with them when it's my time to meditate. And sometimes that looks different. Sometimes they are crawling all over me, but they're seeing that I'm dedicated and I'm committed to that. Or I talk to them about it the next day, like, after you went to bed, mommy had a bath and I read my book and it was so nourishing, and this is what I learned, and what are you going to do for yourself today? Like, I tried to invite them into those conversations and just make it a non-negotiable. And really, like, when I started to do it, it was out of necessity. I was really, really suffering in my mental health. And now I just look back at that paper and I don't want anything to stay the same or get worse. I want to keep progressing. So for me, that was a really helpful insight. And I hope you all try it maybe tonight, and have your partner or children that are around the age to be able to engage in that too. Do it and see what happens and what perspective shifts you can get out of that.
I love that. I've never done anything like that before, but I like the idea of approaching it as, like, a SWAT. It's awesome. And what's really interesting to me is this concept of self-care and how it means different things to different people. But for me, it's not just, have I washed my hair? Have I found time to do my nails? Sometimes it's, I need to clear my inbox. It's in the back of my head and I have all these emails to respond to. And, like, maybe my 1 hour of self-care is like organizing my closet or clearing my inbox or whatever it is that's in the back of my head that I'm like, I have to do this. It's causing me stress. So, self-care can take a lot of different forms. Dr. Casares, what does me time look like for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that you all said really resonate with me. I think the biggest word that comes to mind is holding my boundaries, of honoring my boundaries and knowing what I'm saying yes to. So I, kind of similar to what Terra was saying, I have this very, very clear vision of what I want my life to look like in 5 years. And I do not mean that I own a mansion and drive a Lamborghini. I mean that I have really strong relationships with my kids, that I have physical and mental wellness, that I contribute to other women, financial security. I am exploring and always learning about new things. So whenever there's a request on my time, I always am running it kind of through this filter of, will it move those things forward? And if it doesn't, then I've learned to set a pretty clear boundary on it, either to figure out some way to get it done with the least amount of time possible, or to give it to somebody else to do, or to say no to it completely, or to find a very, very specific time and place that it's going to go in my schedule, to schedule it like Blessing was talking about. And that, I have found, has freed up my time so much, so that now I actually have a lot of me time. And I think you're right. Sometimes it can look like I'm emptying my email. Sometimes it can look like I'm exercising. Sometimes it can look like I'm actually with my kids. Like, some of my me time is like enjoyable time with my kids doing stuff that I like to do. And it's joyful. And then I think the other piece of it for me has been about getting curious, this curiosity, which kind of goes along with the self-compassion piece, which is about when I have this pull at my heart of guilt that I should be baking cookies for the school bake sale, or that I should be joining this extra committee at work. And I know those things are going to pull away from either time that I'm spending investing and knowing myself and really being kind of developing this inner best friend, which I know sounds woo-woo, but totally is is like the rock and the foundation, I think, of making strong decisions. But I try to be kind with myself and to get curious about why it is that I feel this strong urge to do that, to say yes. Is it because I really don't want to look like a bad mom to the other people at the school? Is it because I don't want the teacher to think that I'm not invested? Is it because I don't want someone to think that I'm not leaning in fully at my job? And then I try to be compassionate to myself, to both sides, to the part that really wants to be like a badass businesswoman and like be there at the table with the boys, and to the part of me that wants to be like the most dedicated Betty homemaker mom. And then also compassionate to the part of me that's going to say, like, well, that's somebody else's vision for what they want for my life. It's not mine. And to continually be kind of having those thoughtful, compassionate conversations in my head about what actually really, really matters to me. And in the end, what's going to make it so that my vision comes to life. Because I know if I just have that out in the future of 5-10 years, that's what I want life to look like for me and my family. But I don't practice it now, like every single day in small ways, it will never, ever happen. So it's really a lot about decision making for me and about prioritization of when I have free moments, will I be spending it on doing it something that someone else wants me to do, or will I be focusing my time on those priorities that I have?
All of these points are so good and get to the heart of this intentional time. Am I asking the right questions? Am I thinking through what this decision is going to mean for me and my family, not only now, but 5 years from now? So I love that. I think that's really, really insightful. I know we're running out of time. We have 9 minutes, so we probably only have time for one more question. So I really want to talk about family rituals. They are a powerful way for families to find stability and connectedness. They also give children the sense of belonging, and also validation. So family rituals promote a sense of identity in a child, and that can later serve them as a basis of adult development. Julie, do you have any rituals in your household, and what do they look like?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, we do. And the rituals have changed over the years. And I couldn't agree more with you that they are so important. And I see the impact they already have on my 15-year-old daughter, because we were about to change a ritual this coming holiday season, and it was not okay with her. And it really shook her. So they mean a lot to these kids. And they give them a core stability, sort of almost like this vision into the future of their worlds as they develop. When they were young, we never missed a Friday night that was movie, and it's going to sound so not creative because it's not, but it was just every Friday night it was a movie, and then someone chose the dinner, and it was delivered or take out, and it didn't matter if it was your turn, you could pick it. And like my son almost routinely picked Chinese because he knew my daughter didn't like it, and it became this thing. Like, I'm going to make her eat Chinese food, and she picked Mexican because it was too spicy for him. But it became this fun thing, and now they actually like all those foods. They will eat anything. But it was always a movie that was age appropriate, and those movies have changed, and now we are watching more adult movies as a family, which is actually really fun. More discussions and lively discussions. And really wasn't until this year that we had to alternate being strict about Friday night being the ritual night, just because as you get older kids, my 15-year-old now has something to do on a Friday night. So it's become, a Wednesday night, but we don't skip it. We do have a lot of rituals around holiday time because we are a multi-holiday family. We do Hanukkah, we do Christmas. And right now it's Hanukkah, and it's always the candles every night together, everyone there, take turns lighting them. Christmas is always done the same way. We buy the tree from the same place. We take our walk and get our hot chocolate on the way to the tree. It's from the setup. Everyone has their roles, who brings the water to the tree. And, you know, these are small, but they are so important to these kids because they don't want to, you know, they don't want to change it. And I love that.
That
Sorry.
is so
Yeah.
sweet. No. That is so sweet. And we do something like that every year. I mean, I know kids are little, but we take a family photo together and then we cut it out and we put it in an ornament that we get to choose at the store together. And then when we decorate the tree every year, they get to see the ornaments. We've been going for 6 years since I first got pregnant. And it's so fun because, you know, my eldest will be like, look, I'm in your tummy there. And my youngest goes, no, that's me. See, you're there. And it's just so cute. I love it. Yeah. Terra, can you talk a little bit about family rituals and what that looks like?
Yeah, of course. There's two that I like to share. One is at dinner time, we always go around and we talk about the joy of the day. And I have the cutest videos of my babbling toddler before he was even making coherent sentences. And he would just, you know, get so excited and go, joy, joy, joy. And then when it was his turn, who knows what he said, but he loved it. And he thought it just was so fun. And it's just really nice every night to hear what everyone's joy was of that day. I just absolutely love it. Another ritual that we have is a checklist before school. So we do a checklist where it's pretty simple. Before my daughter leaves for school or my son, we say, do you have your backpack? And we say, check. Do you have your water bottle? We say, check. Do you have your kindness? And we say, check. And then do you have your courage? And it's check. And now it's also mask too. But for me to be able to infuse that, yes, getting ready for your day involves things, but it also requires intention, and making that a very spelled out family ritual has been really wonderful to see, because often with my 6-year-old, we'll talk about ways that she used her kindness that day, or how did her courage show up for her. It went in her backpack. So like, when did she pull it out? When did she have to use it? Or when did she encourage, you know, one of her friends to use it? Has been a family ritual that I hope we do for the rest of our lives. I just love it.
Sorry, I couldn't find my cursor. I love that idea of packing up these different things that you're going to feel throughout the day. We do when did you feel happy today? When did you feel sad? And it's so interesting listening to your kids' perspectives on that. Blessing, what does family rituals look like for you and your family?
Ours have changed over the years as well, but lately, at least in the last year, I think it was really the pandemic that brought this, right? Because we couldn't do anything. So we started having picnics outside. So we would have, we'd take our picnic mat, I got this cute picnic basket from Amazon. I think it wasn't a lot, and we've been using it every weekend for close to 2 years now. So speaking of things that don't cost you money, pretty much we'll take any leftovers we have. The kids will go bring the fruits and whatever we have in the fridge, we'll bring it all out, we'll warm it up, and we just put the picnic blanket outside, and we all sit down and eat, chat about our day. So we did that during the pandemic, actually, almost every evening, but now we do it every weekend. So it's either Saturday or Sunday, depending on what's happening in the house. We would go to a nearby park. Sometimes we do it on the beach. Sometimes, we drive to a really nice, location to have the picnic, and everybody, I got them a little sun hat. So they all have the same sun hat, and they take the picnic basket. My son loves to pack up the picnic basket. So he brings the fruits, and my daughter goes and grabs the water bottle. So it's just really cute. And I see that it's really helping them to, they look forward to it. Even on Tuesday or during the week, they will say something like, well, when we go to the picnic on Saturday, right, I get to choose, where we're going to, where we're going and what we're going to do. So it's just really exciting. It's also a very fun way to just have fun together as a family. So again, being intentional, right? They take their bikes out there. We got them some scooters. So they would scoot, while we sit down. Dad and I catch up, and they're just out there having fun. So it's really exciting for us. Another ritual that we do is, of course, I think everybody does this. I hope everybody does this. It's just bedtime stories, right? So, we do bedtime stories. They get to pick the books. They read it or we read it to them. I really love the part where they read it to me, because then I can be like, oh, so what do you think happens next? And they read that back. So I think kids, especially when they're young, it's so important to have that ritual, that structure down, because again, they know what to expect. And, even if it doesn't happen, right, then you can actually see how flexible they are. Because if it doesn't happen, my son is already automatically calculating. It's like, oh my, it's raining, so we can't go to our picnic today. I wonder if we can do the picnic in the house. So we've actually had occasions where we had a picnic blanket in the middle of the living room, right? So you get to see how creative they can be as well, when things don't go, the way we want it to go. So I really enjoy those picnics. Sundays at church, there's also prayers. They do prayers before they eat. That's something that I actually didn't start. Their nanny started it. So I came downstairs one day and they were having, lunch, and, they were all praying, and I was like, okay, this is cute. Like, I have no problem with this. So this is something that we actually, continue, even when the nanny's not there, we're like, okay, let's pray. And they really love it.
I love all these different sort of family rituals because it's so nice to hear what other families do. We do beach walks at night because we're very fortunate. We live, 5 minutes from the beach, and we say goodnight to the sun as the sun goes to bed. So it's really cute. Dr. Casares, what do you do? What does family rituals look like for you?
We have a ton of family rituals. One really simple one is we used to go out to eat on Saturday mornings to this pancake place that the kids love, where you could make your own pancakes. You get the squeeze bottle, and it would get really, really expensive. So we actually bought a griddle at home and bought the squeeze bottles. It's very, very inexpensive to buy your own chocolate chips and cut up your own fruit. And so we do it at home, and they can make little animals and all of that type of stuff. So we do that on the weekends. And then the other thing, to Blessing's point about having kids develop rituals, I think one thing about having kind of a quirky and bright older kiddo is that she's very in tune with kind of the world and other cultures and what's going on. And so she started actually really wanting to learn more about all the different holidays that different cultures celebrate. And so we've started actually, like for Diwali, she wanted to buy from Amazon some little like candle holders, and we got those, and she taught us about Diwali. And then the next holiday that we had my younger daughter teach us something about the other holiday, and we bought a little thing off Amazon to learn about it. So those are things that I'm finding that my kids, as they're getting a little bit older, they're bringing rituals to our own family. And then the other thing, my pediatrician brain is always reminding people that chores are rituals too. I know that they're not quite as exciting as really lovely, engaging, warm and fuzzy rituals we do with our kids, but that our kids really do benefit from that. So it can be simple things like feeding the dog. It can be taking the plates from the table. We lived with my mom for a year, and when we did that, she had these really fancy, like nice plates, and she never wanted the kids to take the plates to the sink. And so I just bought some plastic plates from Target that it didn't matter if they dropped and they shattered, so they could still keep on going with this ritual that we started in our own home, because we felt like it was so important for them to feel like they had some connection and contribution to our entire family structure.
I think that is so important, especially as kids are really competent and they're capable. And if you allow them to participate, they will blow your mind. At least, my mind is blown all the time. Maybe my expectations are really low. Oh my goodness. This has been so amazing. And I just love hearing about all of your different sort of insights and what your families do. And I hope that this has been, really insightful for our attendees. Thank you so much for your time to our panelists. We really appreciate it. This has been a lovely conversation. I know that we're a little over time, but it's been so fun to listen to you all. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a beautiful weekend, and we'll do this again soon.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Lauren.